Yo, it's your boy Mgtow, and today let's have a little story time. So, I was dating this girl. She lived about 40 miles away from me, one way, and she didn't have a car or a driver's license. And she was working at McDonald's, and she was living with her dad. She worked day shift and he worked night shift. So I met this girl at a Halloween party. We started talking off and on for 2 or 3 months, and then she ended up kissing me at some party, and I still pushed her away because I wasn't really fully into her yet. Even though she's smoking hot. She was smoking hot. But she kind of reminded me of my ex a little bit on some levels. And I kind of just pushed her away. But eventually, she worked through. And one day, we started talking again. And she said, "Oh, my dad works night shift. Why don't you come by one evening and we can have some dinner and watch some TV in the house?" I'm like, oh shit, pussy. I'm gonna get me some. So I go over there, and yeah, she cooks me something to eat. We talk. We start making out. I try to have sex with her, and she says, "No, I'm not ready." And then so I come over again. This time I get a little bit further, like second, third base. Still no sex. Third time that I come over, she finally gives it up. So for like a year, I'm driving to this city that's 40 miles away from where I live, one way. And then I, drive back home. And her dad comes home like at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I can only, not at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like 10 o'clock at night. So I'd get over there like around 5 or 6. I'd hang out for, 3 or 4 hours. And then her dad, "Oh, you gotta hurry up and get dressed and leave. He's on his way home." So I gotta hop in my car and leave. And this went on for, almost a year. And then I ended up landing a job in that city. And I worked there it was just a temp job. They set me up with an apartment and everything. And I ended up moving to that city. And I was there for about 6 months, and I was just right down the street from her. We were fucking every day like rabbits. But then after the assignment was over, I had to go back to my original city. So we were back 40 miles away. At this time, it's been like a year and a half since I've been, hanging out with this girl off and on. She finally gets a car and a driver's license, and she gets out of that McDonald's job. And she's working for a major manufacturer. So I'm like, oh, that's cool, girl's making some moves for herself, finally. I was proud of her. And then she started driving to my city, so, because I've been driving to her for so long. She finally got a car and a driver's license. And she started driving to my city, meeting up with me, and, bringing over bottles of wine. We didn't really go on dates that much. Our relationship was, very much based around sex. Because, I'm an attractive guy and she's an attractive woman. So we were just, going at it like rabbits. But eventually, that wild sex, man, it starts to wear off. And you realize that it's just sex. So, I started pushing away from her a little bit. I'm going out with my friends, meeting some new people. And, I start losing interest for this girl. But she was so damn attractive, so freaking cute, that, I just couldn't stay away from her. And this girl, sometimes I'd go 2 months without seeing her. And she would text me, almost every single day. "Good morning, good night, have a great day." And oftentimes I wouldn't even respond, like days would go by and I would even, you know, return her text. And you know, she was very persistent, and I give her that. Now fast forward a couple weeks after she gets her, or a couple months after she finally gets her driver's license, she's stressed out, I guess, and she ends up getting a DUI after leaving a restaurant with one of her friends. She drank a little too much, and then she drove home. It was like a Saturday at 6 p.m. and she crashes into a guy while under the influence, and her driver's license gets suspended for a year. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then she's got to pay all this money, and her life is kind of, you know, messed up. And, you know, I come from a legal background, so as a paralegal, so I try to help her out and do some things with her cases. But I'm thinking more and more, oh man, this girl's starting to look like a liability. And her family had issues too, you know. Like her, you know, she was staying with her dad, and he was cheating on her mom all the time. And the mother lived, you know, out of the country because they were foreigners. And he had women over there, you know, cheating on her all the time right in front of his daughter, which was the girl I was seeing. And I kind of felt sorry for her, you know. And all of her siblings and family members who lived nearby, they all kind of had drama and stuff going on too. But you know, I kept getting these job offers that were, you know, like out of state. I'm talking like 400 or 500 miles away. And I was turning these job offers down because I was like, oh man, I'm going to be so far away from this girl that I really like. And I started to realize that, you know, I was putting my future and everything on hold just because I liked having sex with this girl. And, you know, we weren't getting married. And on top of that, I kept asking her if she wanted to get a place together, and she was like, no, because of my culture, I cannot live with a guy unless we are married. You know, so it was like, if I want to hang out with her, I got to sneak around in her house at night. We can't live together because of our culture unless we get married. Like, there's all these rules. And then once you got the DUI, you know, I'm right back to going back and forth across town, back and forth. You know, and I have an old vehicle, and I'm putting miles on it. I'm spending gas money. And, you know, every time that I went to go see her, she always had a hot meal waiting for me. And, you know, she rubbed my back. She'd treat me like a king. But, you know, it was just getting tiresome. Like, I lived in a big city, and she lived in a small city. And if I wanted to do things in my city and I wanted to invite her to do it, then, you know, I had to go and pick her up. I had to go and pick her up and then bring her to my city and then do the activity and then bring her back home, and then I had to drive back to my city. So it was just like the amount of driving that I was doing to upkeep the relationship was like tremendous. Like, I had never done anything like this for a girl, you know. And, you know, months go by, and then her dad went out of town for like 3 months back to his native country. So the house was completely empty for 3 months. So I was basically like kind of living over there, you know. I was over there all the time, sleeping over, you know, watching TV, you know, laying in his bed. You know, it was like I was the man of the house. Like, I kind of took the shit over. But I got to thinking, what's gonna happen when these 3 months are up? She said, oh, well, he's gonna come back and he's gonna get a job and, you know, blah blah blah. And she had gotten a new job where she's working night shift. Oh, she's working night shift now, and she has Saturdays and Sundays off. But the father comes back from the country, and, you know, he's back in the house. So I can't go over there and have sex with her in the house anymore. So if I want to have sex with her, you guessed it, I got to pick her up, drive her 40 miles one way back to my house, you know, spend some time with her, make love. But guess what? She has a curfew. And this girl is 23 years old, mind you. She has a curfew. Oh, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't want my dad to think that I'm a slut and I'm out here sleeping around late at night. Drive me back home. So I got to pick the girl up, bring her home, please her, make love to her, take her back to her dad's house before the curfew is over. And then meanwhile, she lives in a small town and she works in a factory. So, and she's a very attractive woman. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, she's like an 8. So, a really hot girl from another country in a small town. You know, she's Asian. A hot Asian girl in a small redneck town. She had guys throwing dick at her like left and right, you know, begging to be with her. And, you know, this caused me some insecurity. And she did give me the password to her phone. She was like, hey, you know, you can check my phone anytime you want. And that kind of did make me trust her a little bit more. And, you know, I would catch her having conversations with guys, like nothing sexual or nothing, but, you know, they'd text her late at night. 11 o'clock, midnight, whatever. Hey, you know, how was your day? How you been doing? And she would respond. She'd be like, oh, you know, I'm good. What's going on? And they're just talking and talking. And during one of our little breaks, you know, where we didn't really talk that much or hang out that much, during one of our, you know, it was like a 2-month break that we had. She, but you know, we're still texting, you know, here and there. And she's still saying like, I love you every day. But I just told her like, hey, I needed some space. You know, I need a break. She starts going out on dates with other guys. You know, she says, oh, my friend and her husband are inviting me to go to the movies with them. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, enjoy yourself. I'm just going to stay in my city. And, you know, I'm listening to some opera music. I don't feel like driving out there and picking you up. I'm sorry. She's like, oh, it's cool. So she gets there and then she texts me later on and I'm like, oh, how was your movie? She's like, oh, it was good. And I was like, who all did you go with again? And she's like, oh, it was me and my friend and her husband brought along one of his friends from work. And I'm like, oh, really? A male friend? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. You know? So, red flag, it's starting to look like, you know, they set her up. And I learned more and more details about that day, come to find out. And she told me all this, you know. And she sent me the text messages and all this stuff. Come to find out, after they watched the movies, or whenever they were at the movies, the second guy that was there, that was invited to see the movie, he paid for my girl's movie ticket. And she apparently felt bad about it, so she bought him some popcorn. And then all 4 of them went to her house and had a party. And her dad happened to be there, you know, and he had some of his friends. So they had a house party, and there was some drinking. And, you know, that was that. And then so I finally come over her house like a week later, and I'm seeing all these text messages between them. Oh, I had fun coming to your house and meeting your family. They're all really good. And she was like, oh, thanks for coming by. Seems innocent enough, right? Well, I spent the night with her for like, you know, 2 days. And, you know, she works night shift. She gets off like at 10:30. So I come over to her house after work at night to spend the night. And this guy's texting her like at 11:30 saying, oh, how was your day? How was your shift? And, you know, she's responding to the guy. You know, I'm in the bathroom taking a shit, and she's responding to the guy. Oh, I had a good day. It was pretty, you know, they're talking about their day, and it's like, oh, yeah, I can't wait for the weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she's like, oh yeah, same me, I can't wait for the weekend. Like, they're just having this banter back and forth. So, she falls asleep, and I look through her phone, and I see this, like, damn, this guy's texting her late at night. So I front her out about it. I'm like, man, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? And she uses the classic line, oh, we're just friends. He's just a friend. He's not into me. He's just being friendly. He's just being a nice guy. And I'm like, well, how would you feel if I was interacting the same way that you're interacting right now? She's like, yeah, you're right. I'd probably be a little jealous. So I blocked the guy. I blocked him. And she got kind of, I don't know if she got mad about it or what happened, but I come over her house the next day, and she has the guy unblocked. And I was like, oh, why'd you unblock him for? She's like, oh, he called my friend and said that he was worried about me because I had blocked him. So I didn't want to be rude, so I unblocked him. And I was like, what? It makes no sense. And so we get into this big argument, and I talk about how men and women just, like, cannot be friends. And I finally explain it to her. And then so she logs onto her Facebook, and when she's on her Facebook, it says that guy has accepted her friend request. So she was the one that reached out to him initially and sent him the friend request, and he accepted it. So she's trying to make it seem like, he was doing all the reaching out, but she's the one that friended him on Facebook to begin with. And so I fronted her out about it. And I was like, hey, you're the one that started all this shit. And then she finally admits it. Well, I was lonely, and you hadn't been paying attention to me. And, I was just looking to get out of the house, and I was just hanging out with my friends. And he was a nice guy. And, I didn't want to be rude, so I talked back to him. So I'll show her a text message conversation that I had with one of my female coworkers, where I had a female coworker who texted me at like 9 o'clock at night. She's trying to add me on Facebook, and my coworker is like, hi, it's such and such. You did a really good job at work today. I was really impressed. And I was just like, oh, okay, thanks. And then so her next text message is, so what are you up to? What are you doing tonight? I'm just watching TV. And I said, look, and this woman is like married. I said, you're married and you're living together. Why are you texting me at night? Like, how would your man feel about this? And she's like, oh, you're so old school. And I was like, yeah, I am. And so me and this coworker get into an argument, and I end up blocking her because, like, every affair starts with hello, and the conversations get longer and longer and longer, and I don't want to, I don't want to even open the door to that kind of shit, because everything starts off with a friendship. But guys are not interested in being friends. Guys are always looking for the next sexual conquest. It always starts off, just friends. I even told her that. I was like, when I first met you, I wasn't interested in being your friend. I was interested in, swapping spit with you, going mouth to mouth. Men are not interested in being just friends. They're not. So she ended up feeling bad about the whole situation. She's crying, and she's like, I thought it was just innocent. I wasn't doing anything. And this isn't the first time that it's happened. It's happened before in the past too. Because she doesn't have a car and she lives in a small town, and guys are constantly trying to hit her up, she's accepting car rides. She's going places with them, not alone. There's usually like, there was always another person around, but it's just like honestly, I don't think she ever cheated on me because she always let me like just go through her phone, and I found a lot of shit. So she wasn't hiding anything. She wasn't hiding anything. So that kind of did mean a lot to me, but at the same time, I could see that there were she was keeping and entertaining all of these male friends hovering around her. So that way, you know, if I wasn't giving her the attention that she wanted, or things between us didn't work out, she had all these backup plans. She had all these, you know, other guys that she could get attention from in case things, you know, didn't work out between us. And I'm driving back and forth in my raggedy car with the check engine light blinking. And I just got to thinking, I was like, you know what, man, this just ain't worth it anymore, you know? This just isn't worth it. And, you know, I start contemplating, like just breaking up with the girl. And I finally told her, I was like, man, I think we should just break up. You know, I'm putting my life on hold, and I'm driving back and forth, you know, basically just for your sex. Like that's all you're giving me is your sex. The only thing that you have to offer me is your vagina. That's pretty much what it was starting to feel like, is that we had a transactional relationship, you know, where I was basically driving across town to meet up with her just so we could have sex in her dad's house. And I mean, we hardly ever went out on dates, and if we did, it was just, you know, go to a restaurant and get something to eat. But because of the distance between us, you know, it got hard, man. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're a Mgtow guy, or you're, you know, I want to know you guys' opinion based on everything that you heard. And I'm not shitting on the girl. Like I said, she was super hot. She treated me like a king whenever I went to her house. You know, she's cooking for me, washing my clothes, you know, sexually does whatever I want. I mean, she tried really hard to satisfy me. But it was just like our relationship was going nowhere, and I wasn't really interested in getting married, and that's the only way that we could live together. And you know, I wanted to travel and move to a new city and go places, and you know, she didn't want to come along with me, or wasn't able to come along. So our life just went in two different parts. Like, I miss her all the time. I mean, this girl is smoking hot. If I could show you guys a picture, you'd be like, wow, like now I get it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Tell me guys what you think.